Namaskaram, everyone. One of our Isha meditator and volunteer actually asked me a question that why Sadhguru used to tell her daughter Radhe that do not look upon someone or look down on someone. So what he was actually saying is like, do not see somebody as higher or somebody as lower. See everybody as equal. And in the same line, Anna, asked me that why, if he has said this to his daughter, why he actually also said that, in devotion, everything or everyone is higher than you. So this looks sort of contradictory. Why this is so? Like it looks contradictory, but it's not actually, because the existence is such that it looks paradoxical. It looks opposite, but it's not actually, because there are like several layers of realities there, and at the same time, things are actually complementary rather than opposite in nature. So coming back to the point, whatever we speak or whomever we are speaking to, and everything completely depends on the context. This is the main reason that especially the spiritual practice or the spiritual process cannot be noted down as a teaching. There are methods available, but it cannot be laid down as a teaching. Even if you have been said that everything is God, or like everything or everyone is higher than you, or at the same time do not look higher to someone or lower to someone. So these are actually the pointers for you to come to that point, rather than the absolute truth. So what is so is basically, like I mentioned, that it completely depends on the context, because for the adult or the seekers who have come to know the futility of striving into a materialistic world, this physical dimension, and then they have come to the point that what next? So for them, both of them works. One way is do not look upon someone or down upon someone. Why both of these things actually relate is because when we are born, because of the pain and pleasure, slowly we think that we are this physical body. Because the pain and pleasure comes from outside, and then we feel that it's coming from outside, and then because of the survival mechanism we think that that's so. But the psyche, the mind of the child, it's not actually too much formed, although the body tells that pain and pleasure. Because of that you might feel that your body, but the mind is still not formed. So the main objective of Sadhguru was at the time was why he told her is because she does not have any concrete idea who is higher or lower. For example, like somebody is in hierarchy. For example, like in our society, if somebody elder comes, and then the parents will ask, or your family members will ask you to then go and bow down or greet them. But at the same time, like if you know that they supported your survival process, and that they are part of the society, they are making your life happen, then bowing down is natural. The reverence will come by itself. But if you think logically that the limitations and then the compulsions of that the person, even though they are older, your logical mind cannot bow down. It will say like, oh, this guy lies, or like this guy has got like a alcoholic problem, or like do these kind of things. or he does certain kind of limitation. So why should I lie? So if you go logically that way, you can never bow down. So this is the limitation of the mind, because it will always work in duality, so it will always compare. So basically the tools that you can consider as a tools. So basically even if you go through the intellectual seeking, you'll come to the point that everything is actually connected, everything is interrelated, and one thing cannot exist by another thing. For example, we cannot survive without the oxygen. The oxygen comes from the trees and soil. We know that the soil, Safe Soil campaign is going on. Sadhguru is in the Geneva at the moment. So this is how it actually is. So, but the intellectual understanding you might arrive at that point, but still the duality is still there. So you know that I'm here, the another person is there. So if the another person eats the food, I do not get nourished. I still have to eat myself. So the main thing is although our reality is undivided, and just like Sadhguru says that it's the magnanimity of the creation that we have been given the individual experience. So the main objective is by not looking down on someone or looking up on someone, we go beyond our likes and dislikes, and at the same time we can become equanimity, that we become free of the prejudices of the mind. Because when we think that this person is higher, then we tend to take sides of that person, and we'll miss out the possibilities if we get caught on that one. Because if you go through the way of Kriya Yoga, and then or if you go on the deeper meditation, you will come to realize that all these other things like individuality of higher, lower, right, left, up, down, everything is just the making of the mind. So now why Sadhguru also says that why he says that you have to look everything as the higher. One thing is if you have reached to the stage where there is no individuality left, everything is just one life, one process, and everything is just a part of the same process. They are not different from each other. Then in that context, that is the yoga. So in that case, both this, looking somebody as upper or higher, or upper or lower, or having a devotion does not arise, because everything is just you and you alone. But if somebody is not in that state, then if you follow the way of higher and lower, that is basically, if you see the karma yoga or the volunteering process, specifically from Isha. If you are doing the Isha volunteering, that is the way of the first thing that what Sadhguru was actually telling to his daughter. So when you are doing the volunteering, you just offer yourself. So, but offering will not come by itself. You need to have certain kind of element of the devotion on that one. Now, why devotion is basically, if you have came to a certain point of awareness and then perception and everything, then it becomes a natural thing. You don't need to think, should I bow down, should I not bow down, or something like that. That is going to happen. So if you are, have not come to that kind of clarity or perception or something, why Sadhguru also mentioned that you need to, in Bhakti Yoga, you need to bow down to someone. Now, if you just bow down just because Sadhguru is saying or somebody is saying, it's going to be mechanical in process. It's not going to happen that way. But what actually devotion means is, because if you just observe yourself, you don't need to look outside. You just need to observe yourself in your body and your mind, or even whatever you can perceive as yourself at this point of time. You'll see that even your breathing, your hunger, even your hunger, your desires, your cravings, your although there are compulsions and limitations are also there, but they're also the reason you are still here. But now if you look into your hunger, your breathing, you're sleeping, you're waking up, even digestion process and everything, even the thought process itself, these are all not actually the conscious process. You are not actually making them happen. Even if you are capable of making majority of these bodily function or mental processes conscious, there is certain aspects of it which is not under your control. So for example, just because you think that, okay, I want to die, you cannot die immediately, because even if you say that, you don't actually have a control over the body. That's how we are all surviving, because many people go through certain kind of physical and psychological trauma. So coming back to this, that if you want a short answer, so basically why it is being said is, it completely depends on the context. If a person has got is intellect bound, for them initially karma yoga can be very good. People who are emotional or who had certain kind of spiritual experience, bhakti yoga will come more faster. Again, I don't want to, I'm not the person to make comments on this one, but this is what I have perceived. Because when you have certain kind of profoundness of experience, let's say through a sadhana or in the presence of a guru, devotion is a natural consequence, because you can just bow down. You can just bow down. There's no other way. And now while you're bowing down, are you going to think that this person is higher or lower? No. It becomes naturally. So in devotion, you'll bow down, and if you look yourself here, and then you'll see that our existence completely depends upon everyone. Then depend on everyone and everything around us. They all have a role to play for our existence to happen. Then you are a devotee. You are a devotee because without a single process contributing, this life cannot happen. So for a seeker, who don't have any spiritual experience or something, you make a conscious effort initially. So when you do the volunteering, you do both of them. When you offer yourself, that has an element of bhakti yoga in practice initially. And the next thing is going to be when you are offering yourself, then the higher and lower does not come into the play, because you are there not for yourself. Offering basically means it's not about yourself, because you are not asking for anything in return. So if you're asking for something in return and you think you're offering, then you are in a marketplace. You're not in the lap of creation. So, and that is how it is. And then in the bhakti yoga, so you can use a chant, you can use mantras, you can use bhajans, kirtans. Basically the main objective is to forget about yourself, because the one issue that everybody is suffering is only the psychological aspect of it. So once that is taken care of, life becomes sweet. So now why another aspect I want to discuss is basically now many people, before we go into that one, many people might also ask that can both of these things can be consciously practiced, and you can arrive at bhakti or arrive at karma yoga or gnana yoga or whatever. You cannot arrive, but you can create the ambience, you can create the environment on which it can flower. For example, when you are meditating initially, you will start try to watch your breath, you want to sit still, backache, all these things will happen initially. If you persist for a long time, and then if you have a grace of Guru, if you have been initiated into powerful processes or something, then initially you will find out that like it's not only the breath, there is something more into it. I will not go into that one to create spoilers here, but so it's the same thing that like you start consciously bowing down initially, or you come to understanding that like the limitation of who we are, and then the entire existence is supporting our existence. So you do consciously initially, and then there comes a period when you have just like set aside. Once you have set aside, then the existence will flow through you, and that is the only that is the only significant thing in life, actually. Not thinking, not doing, not becoming, but just being. So we can to summarize, we can say that these things are just the tools. Basically, the first one, it looks more like a Gnana Yoga tool, because that is how it is. Because in existence, nothing is higher or lower. You might ask that some people will say that okay, feet are dirty, so the brain is more important. But the entire thing from head to the leg, they all is a single system. They have got their own roles to play. There is nothing more higher or lower. It has got other possibilities that some of the things, but they are all a single unit. Now I would like to add one more thing at the end. Is basically most of the people want to look in the world, and then they will come to a certain kind of conclusion, and in their current state that might seem plausible and real also, and yes, in their experience it's real also, but the existence has got a different dimensions altogether, and there might be more that is not perceivable through us. But a human being can go through typically seven dimensions of experiences. These are referred as, I think you must have heard about 7 chakras, which actually represents 7 different possibilities of experiences, of dimensions of experience, a human possibility. So when we are talking about the higher and lower and everything, that is actually the domain of the Agna Chakra, the way of the perception. So this is where all the dualities has ended. So that is where that happens. But without that, the Karma Yoga is not going to work without having a proper understanding or offering. So the another aspect is why offer, the another aspect is we are talking about the feeling or the devotion, something is higher or something, is basically the domain of the Anahata, the heart chakra. So why it is so is because in the spiritual tradition in the East, in Hinduism, you can say Hinduism or a spiritual process, there is a Dvaita and Advaita. So people who are more intellectual and something, they will follow the way of the Advaita. So there is no two, there is only one. You are the divine reincarnate, or you are part of divine, whatever you want to say, Brahmasmi or Tat Samasi, or the Dvaita basically means there is always two. There is always you and then the another individual. For example, you and then the divine, you and the Guru. In the Advaita, if you have a Guru, then there is only Guru. You are no longer there. So these are the two approaches to go through. Again, this is not the spiritual discourse, not the recommendation or replacement for their spiritual practice. This is just my understanding, So it's best that you go through this one also if you are interested. But the most important aspect is you just intensify your spiritual processes. If you are initiated into Shambhavi Mahamudra, the inner engineering program, then it's really good. You can intensify. If you think that is not enough, then you can go for the advanced practices like programs like BSP, Vavaspandana program, Shunya, Shakti Chalana Kriya, Hatha Yoga, and even Samyama also. And if you don't have time or budget, or you want to have a free process, then Isha has also made simple meditation practice for free. You can just search for like Isha Kriya, which is very powerful process also by itself. So again, like you might be wondering, okay, I'm in a family situation, should I be worrying about all this kind of thing? No, it's nothing to do. Like these are for everyone. So it's completely depends upon you. Like a tool can have a lot of features on it. For example, like everybody has got a smartphone. Again, Sadhguru has already said like what smartness means. Everybody has got a smartphone, but like does everyone uses the full feature of that? No, isn't it? So it completely depends upon each individual's capability and each person's individual's striving to understand, to know how this thing works, and that's how it has to be. Because if you do not know, and then like if you have access to the powerful process or something, then it can actually create more harm to you. So so that's it. So in Bhakti Yoga is not something like you can practice. Bhakti Yoga is the consequence, or it's the flowering by itself. Once you have these spiritual experiences or something, then you'll become devotee by yourself. And without becoming a devotee, spiritual process is going to be very, very, very long. It's going to be an arduous process. It does not necessarily mean you need to be devotee to something. You can become devotee to anything. You can devotee to your family, you can devote it to anything, but the only thing is you should not be changing the direction. That's what the devotion basically means. And and so these are the two aspects. One thing is if you are doing Isha volunteering, then you are making use of both of these features. You don't need to think about these things like what should I do or what you need to do. Just give in to your process. And when spring will come, and then like the flowers will bloom, and then the birds, the bees, the butterflies will come by their own accord. And the beauty of this being is it is not limited to time and space, so you don't need to wait for anything. It's just here. So yeah, it has been a long video, but I hope I try to clarify the doubts. Namaskar.